What is going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. I'm BobbyFi. Happy to be here with my man, Eric Sheetshaber, as usual. We aren't coming off the greatest night ever. Getting Andre Drummond benched or whatever the hell happened in that overtime game was sort of frustrating. Been a little bit of a rough go lately for me on basketball, and we've hit some good plays, but we haven't hit the right mix this last week or so. So, Sheets, what are you thinking about on this slate? What are your thoughts sort of about what's been happening?
Again, I just chalk a lot of it up to variance. I was pretty happy with my process going into yesterday, and again, it depends on where you stick to your guns and where you kind of get sucked in by the crowd think near the end. I got a couple of messages yesterday that like thanking me for Lillard and Graham, because we talked about that natural run back and we had and to make sure you put the right value in. And I'm like, boy, I totally forgot that was something that I said. You know what I mean? So it depends on where you kind of like stick to your guns, sort of. Because even with all that Pelican value, remember when you have that Pelican value, you have to differentiate yourself elsewhere. And those guys like Graham and Lillard and the other guys we talked about ended up low enough owned. That's the way you could go. And likewise, I don't know if you were watching the FanDuel thing, but I was pretty hell bent on fading LeBron, especially with AD, especially with AD out, because I knew how owned he was going to be. And I don't even know what ended up happening with FanDuel, whether the LeBron lineups won or not. But you could have done pretty well yesterday. But there were some pivot points where first of all, you had to have Okafor, you just had to, and you had to fade Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And I was unfortunately all over Nickeil Alexander-Walker and didn't have enough Okafor. And when you have one guy that has such a huge amount of leverage on everybody else, it's kind of difficult to do a lot of damage unless you have him.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into tonight because I think it's an interesting one. Let's get the first game out of the way. We have a 7:30 Eastern starting time tonight, so it's a little different. Sheets, why don't we come up your screen?
Okay. Oh, yeah. So I'll put my screen up here. Hold on a minute. And again, just as kind of a slate overview real quick, I have a pretty good sense of the slate overview. Okay, so there are a couple of injuries to kind of look for, but most important is what you do with Harden. Okay, because Harden is going to be the most highly projected player by a lot, and he's going to be really, really high owned. I'm not going to pay the slightest bit of attention to these first ownership runs that I'm seeing, like 25%. It's ridiculous. He's going to be 50% plus, I think. And part of the reason why is there's just kind of like some natural value that just is also going to be chalky that kind of lets you do it. And the decision point you're going to have to make, in my opinion, is whether if you're going to play GPPs, do you play Harden and figure out some way to differentiate elsewhere in your lineup, or can you build enough with these mid-range, these upper middle range guys and get the points you need to offset what could be a kind of a smashy Harden situation today. And I think that's the main decision you have to make. And you will get to Luka, we'll get to Giannis, and whether that's kind of the sucker move is whether to pivot down to those guys is the bad move, as opposed to pivoting down to the middle range guys is better. So we'll talk about it, but that's my overall view of the slate.
Yeah, definitely. That's where the decisions are going to have to be made. And I still am deciding where I stand on it because I think that you actually can build without Harden and be okay. And I would tend to agree that he's going to be crazy high owned. I also think that if you do want to do one of those exact pivots, I think that actually makes a lot of sense. Just real quick off the bat, I know we're going to get into it game by game, but I actually think that, either Luka or Giannis, I probably would – I mean, Luka's going to go nuts against this. He did it last time in like 2.5 quarters. He put up like 75 against them. Giannis is probably going to go a bit nuts as well. Like, I don't mind either of them as a pivot off of Harden. And the interesting thing is you can play the value from Houston and not play Harden and sort of, maybe hope that McLemore gets hot or something like that.
That's the idea. I mean, that's again one of the other. That's one thing you can do. Is take the Houston value and, like you said, take a stand on Luka. I don't know. We have to talk about Kristaps, whether he's playing or not, because I'm presuming him in for now. Or whether you're going to eat the blowout risk in the Giannis game. So we'll get to that. The good thing is the first game is going to take me about 8 seconds.
All right. Well, let's do it.
So Utah, Brooklyn. If you want to include a upper middle range guy in your pool to use in a middle range build, you could use Donovan Mitchell at 7,700. Aside from that, I don't see anybody in this entire game that I want to have any piece of at all, just from a projection perspective. So unless there's some reason for me to stack this game, which I don't see any, again, if I don't see anybody great from either side, probably not going to go after it. So for me, I'm going to probably avoid this game with the exception of, again, if I really want to get contrarian and put Mitchell in some build somewhere, maybe I'll do that. But aside from that, it's almost a cross-off for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I actually like Mitchell quite a bit. And I think that, I mean, Gobert's price is crazy, but it is like a pretty much a nut matchup for him. So maybe on FanDuel, you could consider him as sort of like a different build, maybe at center. I don't think I'm going to use him on DK here just because I think there's other places I'd rather spend, but I do like Mitchell quite a bit. And, you know, it was an illness that he was out with. It's not like he was banged up exactly. So if you get him back here, he's a guy who I feel like in that upper mid tier that's going to get not overlooked, but slightly overlooked for what he is. I mean, this is the spot where, you know, if it was a game right after Conley was out and we heard, you know, Conley was just out or whatever, and they were playing, Utah was playing Brooklyn. I like to do this all the time. We would have on this slate, we probably would have Mitchell at like 40 or 50% because we've had some time to digest it and he hasn't played extremely well. He's coming off of an illness. No one's going to play him. And I just think it's kind of like he's a really interesting play that's shouldn't be contrarian, but almost feels that way because I feel like he gets lost in the slate.
Okay. So if you don't mind, I want to move ahead because the next game is, to me, probably the most important game with respect to, you know, good pivot points and what you might want to do if you don't want to play Harden. And even if you do want to play Harden, a couple of things that you can go after. So first of all, they did announce that Trae Young was going to play today. And, you know, as we know, if Trae plays, he's open to play 87 minutes. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to limit him. So the very first thing that you can do is play Trae Young and play Trae Young along with Devin Booker. Okay. It's a very, very natural 1v1. And I just, you know, and it doesn't take anybody to watch basketball for too long to realize that when these guys get going, these guys could just light up the freaking scoreboard and one could feed off of one another. And if you want a pairing that can eclipse a Harden / somebody else 2v2, this is certainly one way you could do it. You know, it's a high total, close spread, and I think this is a major starting point to fading Harden is by playing these two guys. Now, again, not that Booker is going to be that low owned, but he's going to be certainly maybe 15-20% or something a hell of a lot lower than Harden. And right now, Trae Young is listed as very low owned because I guess, you know, if you're going to pay up, you may as well try to find the money for Harden. I guess what people are looking at. But for me, I think that this is a very, very natural thing that you can do, and it's certainly going to be something I do in a decent amount of my lineups. The other guys I want to bring up from this game, number one is DeAndre Ayton is projecting to be a pretty good play. If he's really low owned, I might try it. But the guys you have to look for, a couple of things. Number one is Rubio is considered questionable. If in fact he doesn't play for some reason, and you got to watch for this because it's the 7:30 game also, is that then you might get this Elie Okobo thing coming in. You know what I mean? Again, it's just something you got to watch for. And you know, when you have a lot of chalk value coming from like maybe the Houston game, you're going to look for other value to come in. Now, again, if Rubio is ruled out, then Okobo is certainly not going to be chalky. You know what I mean? He's not going to be surprised. I mean, he's going to pick up ownership, so it's not going to be fooling anybody. Another thing to comment on this game, you could comment on this if you want, but Kelly Oubre is returning to Atlanta, who basically drafted him and traded him before he ever set foot on the school ground, so to speak. So you want to factor that into your projections or whatever it is. But on the Atlanta side, there's three plays I want to ask you. Number one is I think John Collins is going to be a pretty good option here. But the other two guys, I want to ask you about DeAndre Hunter because he's, again, I'm trying to find value to make it work that's not going to be chalky value. He's coming in with a sprained finger, which is a little annoying. A sprained strong hand finger, which I don't like for people who have to shoot the basketball. So I want your opinion on that. But if you really want to try something that, you know, I don't know how owned it's going to be right now. No one's really playing him or talking about him. But, you know, if you want to fade some of this other value that might happen, Alex Len has been ruled either out or doubtful. And
he's they just added him to the system. I think he's probable now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Okay, because I thought that
where you were going.
yeah, I had thought that he was going to be listed as doubtful or something like that. If that were the case, that Damian Jones at absolute min cost would almost be kind of necessary to play like, a decent amount of minutes, especially with Phoenix having maybe 2 full centers out on the court. So, I mean, the last thing I saw was literally 5 minutes ago. He said he did not go through shoot around.
Oh,
And
okay.
they're
I just got him added, and I haven't looked at my alerts because I've got him on my phone.
As a matter of fact, this is on DraftKings. It says, Leonard's dealing with lower back issue. Hawks are calling him questionable. But the fact that he sat out shooter, I mean, he's likely trending towards doubtful. So if that is in fact the case, and he's ruled out, and Damian Jones is in fact, you know what I mean, not going to be talked about a lot, he's a guy that you could certainly use to pivot off of some of this other stuff. And
yeah, I think Damian Jones is going to be popular if Alex Len is out.
You would think, right? Okay, but I mean, so we'll just see. We'll just see how that goes.
Yeah, I do think that Damian Jones is an interesting play. I wanted to speak to a couple other things that you mentioned. On the Phoenix side, I don't feel I feel just like it's like a buyer beware if there is no Rubio. Like, don't just assume a Kobo is going to come in and just smoke it. Like, it could go very differently. Tyler Johnson could end up getting some of the run. They could play Booker at the point, which is very, very possible, and play a lot more Bridges, which I think is more the way that I would lean. So I just want to be careful. I don't know that a Kobo becomes an automatic. Now, if he's starting, it's a little bit different, but I think it gives a boost to these other guys. I don't really know that I want to go that far. I love Devin Booker tonight. I'm just going to keep loading up on him every night. Look, he had a little bit of a down game against Charlotte the other night. Other than that, we've just seen him just steady, 41, 51, 51, 51, 44, 50, 40, 54. And you get pretty much the nut matchup against Atlanta. I feel like this is a spot where he should be higher owned than he's going to be because everybody's playing Harden, so it kind of is limiting a little bit of where you're going to go. So I love Booker either with or without a Harden lineup. And I think that if there is no Rubio, obviously we can consider, Booker becomes an even stronger play. But we can consider Mikal Bridges, DeAndre Ayton, and I think Oubre all get a boost. But I don't know that I'm going to end up going there. I would love to see who's in the starting lineup because I could even see, I could see, depending on how they line it up, a guy like Saric even getting a little bit more run tonight. They don't need to go small with the Kobo or Tyler Johnson. So I don't think I'm going to end up going that route. But if they are announced starting, I think I would consider it.
What do you think of DeAndre Hunter?
It's I feel okay with it. Like, I don't love or hate it. I think there's going to be better value. The minutes are secure. It's a good enough matchup. I'm fine with it from that perspective. It's just not all that exciting. He's been more scoring dependent, hasn't been as consistent lately. He's going to have ups and downs as a rookie, and whatever injury just added a little bit to the problem there. Anyway, I'm not as high on him as I initially was. He was actually in the first build I made, but I've since veered away to better value.
Yeah. So I mean, in summary, we'll talk about the other games. I really believe that how much you play of this game is going to be how much I'm going to play of this game. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
Is a really big decision point for me. As a matter of fact, I am probably going to do 2 separate builds, like one Harden build with some kind of weird pivots elsewhere in the lineup, and one build where I just really focus on getting this Atlanta game right somehow.
Yeah. It is an interesting spot. The thing is, Atlanta's tightened up their rotations. I'm okay with the Collins thing, but I don't have like a glaring love for it. I think it's a good matchup. Like, it's fine. It's just I'm not crazy about anybody at these prices, but I do think as a game stack, like, you could play Trey and Collins and run it back with the Booker possible, or one of the two with Booker. I think that's definitely an interesting way to go.
Well, you think about, construction as we, as you alluded to before we got into this. I mean, if you wanted to do that and play, spend a little bit on Trey and Collins and Booker and whatever, then you could use those Houston, non-Harden players, you know what I mean, from that game. And it's almost getting a little leverage from Harden, you know what I mean, to take some of those other guys anyway. So I think that I like it.
Yeah. All right. Should we jump on?
Yeah. So New York, Milwaukee. Couple of thoughts. Number one is okay, you want to play Julius Randle? I suppose you could play Julius Randle on the Knicks side. He's certainly the best option. I kind of view this situation kind of like the Utah game. I mean, not really. I mean, in that from on the Knicks side, I could play Julius Randle, but I don't really want to play anybody else on the Knicks. And the first thing I did, it was really funny. I built kind of an idea of pairing Randle with Giannis as kind of a kind of a pivot off of Harden stuff. And then, I looked at it. I'm like, okay, so I give Randle and Giannis at 20,000. And I try to figure out ways that really, really beats Harden and a 7K guy. And it's really hard. Now, again, it's going to be lower owned. So it's just going to be hard. Let's just put it that way. So I might not end up doing that. I might just go with Randle on his own in some lineups or something like that. But I don't like anybody else on the Knicks. I'm not even – again, you could go to Mitchell Robinson as a center, whatever, but I don't think I'm going to. On Milwaukee, this is a decision point. I mean, it's – Giannis at 12-2. I mean, to spend the extra $800 to Harden seems so trivial. You know what I mean? It seems just so easy to do. I mean – you could compare the two situations so easily. I mean, in that the spread is much lower in the Houston game, and they try everything in their power to sit Giannis if they can. You know what I mean? Like when it's in that fourth quarter, they're just make sure that if they're putting him in, they need him. Where Harden, even if the game does get whatever, they just keep playing him. So I mean, to compare Harden at 13K to Giannis at 12-2, I guess from kind of like, look, if I don't know anything about DFS, I'm a 5-year-old. Like, boy, this seems like a real easy decision. Now, again, like anything else, depends what level of ownership does. If there's got to be some number that if Harden is X and Giannis is Y, that Giannis becomes a better play. I just don't know exactly what that is. On the Milwaukee, the other part of the Milwaukee, I really don't like Bledsoe or Middleton. I don't really like anybody else on the team. And I was just kind of hoping you'd give me a little more insight of what kind of pivot, what do you want to do with Giannis and or Randle?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if I'm going to pivot, I think I actually prefer slightly Luka.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do like Giannis though. Fine. Like, I mean, it's really like not that hard for him to outscore the other two guys today. It really isn't. It's just about the minutes, and you have Harden playing all these minutes without Westbrook. It's just a tough one to sort of. But when you look at even if you just look at the projections and you see that Harden's going to, let's say we both assume Harden's going to be closer to 50% or higher. And then you've got Giannis, who probably realistically ends around 10 to 15%. That's probably enough of a value, probably enough to where you want to pivot. And he is 800 cheaper. And I mean, actually point per dollar wise is actually considered, pretty much across the board to be a slightly better play. Strangely, but I don't know, man. It is tough. I personally think I would lean routes of trying to play two of them or none of them.
Okay.
And I know that sounds weird, but
no, it doesn't. And that puts a lot. I mean, that certainly puts a lot of pressure on you to get the rest. Well, that's fine. It's pressure of GPP to get the rest of that value right. I mean, you spend 25,000, and you gotta hustle. You gotta hustle.
Sure, but this is the day you can do it too.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think anyway.
I will also like to say again, obviously, the more value that opens up, I guess you could say the more chalky Harden's going to be.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, you any other comments about this game or?
No, it really doesn't thrill me at all. I don't think that I'm really going to do a whole lot with it.
Okay. All right. So Houston against Memphis. All right. So here are a couple of thoughts, a couple of ideas. First of all, I wanted to suggest a couple of things. First of all, the most popular player, and again, I thought I was such a genius coming up with this guy overnight. Turns out he's probably the most popular guy on the whole slate, aside from Harden. Ben McLemore at 3,500. I think he's starting, so that's I guess why he's going to be pretty popular. Mm-hmm. Hey, not to mention McLemore revenge going into Memphis.
Yeah.
But he's going to be really popular. He's 3,500. Also, PJ Tucker, I presume, is going to be pretty popular at 3,700. And then Clint Capella is going to be really popular if you want to go a different route at 7,800. And then there's also Eric Gordon's probably going to be less popular because of his price. And I guess the question I would have for you is, before you go and play McLemore at real chalk, I guess we have to discuss the whole idea of what it means to be starting when you're going to just be playing alongside of Harden all those minutes. You know, you might get
3,500. I don't think it matters all that much.
Okay.
You know, like you're not trying. He's not going to break the slate for you probably, but he'll still get plenty. I mean, it's not like Harden doesn't share the ball. He's one of the leading assist guys in the NBA.
Right.
And if you wanted to play that worried route or whatever about him, you could pivot over and play, in addition or instead, you could play Daniel House, play PJ Tucker. I think you could play all three of those guys, to be honest with you, if you don't play Harden, or even if you do. I personally like Capella better than anyone else in this game, including Harden. Okay. So he's my favorite play from Houston's side. But I obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say that Harden's a bad play, because obviously that would be crazy.
What if Capella's 40% owned?
I mean, as a play, I still like him. I don't know what to say exactly about that. I've got another pivot on the other side of this game that I think will get me in low enough ownership if I'm gonna stack Houston fully. But
what if Ricky Rubio, his personal, was just ruled out 10 minutes ago?
Was he?
Yep. All right. So
we're gonna have to revisit that one at the end. Let's revisit that one at the end.
Yep, absolutely. So on the Memphis side, so here's my thoughts on Memphis. And again, I've said this literally every slate. Memphis just always projects like shit. They just do.
They are the perfect team to play in GPPs.
Right. Well, that's my point. I mean, the point is that they're going to project like shit, and as a result, the reason why is because they do kind of like usually spread it around a little bit. So on a GPP, if you can get the right guy, what I mean? It's not that easy that the results just spread completely evenly across these players. Maybe from a median projection, maybe they do, but on each individual game basis, especially when you're going to play Houston guys and you want to run it back or whatever, you can take shots at these Memphis guys. And again, my thought is always to focus on the upside type guys. And you could look at this one of two ways. If you were thinking of playing, say, Valanciunas, one way is, boy, I don't want to chase a 63-point game. But yet on the other hand, if everybody's going to think that way, I don't want to chase a 63-point game and not pay 7,300. Maybe he ends up 5% owned after all that. And then, you're taking the center position away from a chalky Capella, right? For example, he's going to be like a tiny ownership. So if you want to run it back, maybe overpay for Valanciunas. But if you don't want to do that, I mean, you could pick any of these guys, really. I mean, Jaren Jackson, Morant, Jay Crowder, they all have ceilings in them, You don't know exactly when they're going to happen, but each one of these guys does have a ceiling in them. And, I have no problem playing either of these guys or any of those four guys in a run back with Houston. I don't think I would play them on their own, but I don't think I'm going to find that many lineups with no Houston guys anyway. So, do you have any strong opinion on any of these Memphis guys?
I say it all the time, and I'm just like, this is going to be the night, unfortunately, where he gets a little bit of ownership. But I think Joe Val is like pretty much always one of the best tournament plays. He's like how people perceive Zach LaVine as a player, like that he fluctuates a lot, but LaVine doesn't really. People just are wrong about that one. With him, it's interesting because he really, his ceiling is monstrous, and he doesn't really need more minutes to get there. I mean, he's been over 50 now 2 out of the last 4, so it's not like you're just chasing. He also has been over 50 in 6 out of his last 15. 6 out of his last 16. There is a lot of upside with this guy all the time, and yet he's usually just completely unowned because people don't know what you're going to get. Not knowing what you're going to get is a really strong place to take a stance in GPPs, especially when you're entering multiple lineups. I don't think if I have just one lineup, I'm going to play Joe Val, but I do think if I'm having some multiple lineups, I do think I'll throw him into one of them because there's just a monstrous upside for him in really any matchup. It's just a matter of not just the minutes, but the production. And he can produce like crazy in no time. We just saw it the other night. So I don't think it's just chasing. I mean, he's done it. What has he had 9 games this year that would have broken slates? Like, that's ridiculous. There aren't that many guys who could even do that for their prices. So he's one of the best tournament plays in the slate, in my opinion. Other than him, the obvious play is Jay Crowder, who I'll probably run in most of my lineups tonight. I just think at this price and this ownership, this price, and probably will be medium ownership, I guess. But I think that he's going to be in the 25 to 45 range, like all the time in these kind of matchups. So I feel really good about Jay Crowder, but Joe Val definitely a strong tournament play.
I find it interesting that you think that he's going to be owned. I just, again, maybe just only because you can't have everything, right? So if Capella's going to be just real hot, real chalky, I mean, you're going to have to use the utility spot for him.
I mean, he's going to be owned like double-digit percentage. I don't
Okay, I got you.
That's even rare for him. He's usually a 3-5% guy.
Good news is projections updated for the Phoenix game, so we do have time to go. We will have time to go back and it's basically what I said. we'll go back.
It'll be we'll see what happens.
Okay. All right. So Cleveland against the Clippers. This is going to be a very, I mean, at least for me, pretty boring game from DFS perspective. I am presuming, by the way, that Love plays. I mean, he used to not play back-to-backs, but I think he said that he was going to from now on. And he's in LA. I mean, he's not. I don't think he's missing it. So, but obviously keep a lookout for it. I don't really like him today. I don't really like anybody from Cleveland today. Yeah. On the Clippers side, Kawhi, same discussion we had the other day. Kawhi's projected to be a really, really good play, and he always is without Paul George in the lineup. And he's not going to be highly owned, and it's a late game. I don't know what you don't have a lot of swap privileges though if you play him. But again, I wouldn't just throw him away when Trae Young. You could use people that are pivoting off of Harden may go to Trae Young. They might go to Doncic or whatever. And I think Kawhi might get lost in the shuffle. Again, the game script is not the greatest, all right? But the ownership might make up for it. So I'm not gonna throw him out. The other guys, Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell, I think these guys are a little more kind of specious. You know what I mean? Like on a day like this, I don't know if I would go to them. Maybe Beverly would be the next guy I would try. But Kawhi, I might end up using in some lineups. I actually might, but we'll see.
I have no interest in Kawhi. There's no way I'm playing him in any lineup. But I do like Montrezl Harrell quite a bit. I think he's going to destroy this front line, especially second of a back-to-back. And, even like, sure, Love and Thompson probably play, but it's not like they necessarily have to. They're not playing for anything. Harrell, in a blowout or not, I think is going to get basically the same amount of run no matter what. And I think he eats up this front line. So I like him a lot. I think he's a good price on FanDuel, too, at 6,600. So he's the guy I'm sort of siding with, but no real interest other than him in this game.
Okay.
I mean, if you're going to play anybody, I would suggest, maybe playing one of the guards from the other side or Osman with the speculation that Love might sit or something, but probably not worth it on this slate.
Okay. So the Dallas game is it's a little confusing to me, actually. All right. So I am presuming, I don't know what I'm presuming, but Porzingis, I think is going to be in. It's unclear. What's his latest designation here? It says this is questionable. We'll see about the. So it's a back-to-back, right? So they don't think he's going to play in both of them. So they have to decide which one he's going to play in, I guess. So,
yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So presuming he is in. Okay, this is the story that I don't think that Luka is going to be much lower owned as a result. I don't know if he's going to have that kind of. I don't know. I guess he always has a ceiling, but you could talk me into it. You're going to have to figure that away.
I don't think his ceiling changes at all with Porzingis playing.
Okay.
I don't think there's any negative correlation between the two of them.
Okay.
That's just my personal take. Like, I mean, if you look at even the game logs, like you can see Luka was putting in most of his big games while Porzingis was playing. Like, It doesn't seem to make much of a difference.
All right. So the Dallas, I do want to just see if Kristaps is in. But aside from Luka as possible pivot, I guess you could. I mean, you want to try Seth Curry again or something like that as just a pivot off of some of these chalkier guys. Like if you have, if you feel like you're getting too much Macklemore, too much or whatever, boy, it's so hard to get there with Curry though. Over a guy's going to play 35 minutes, 33, 34 minutes. It's very difficult. Hardaway, I don't think I'm gonna go there. Dwight Powell, I don't know.
Yeah.
Nothing really for me, honestly. Golden State though, hey, D'Angelo Russell's gonna be firing away. He's another kind of 8K guy along the lines of Mitchell and guys like that. That in a balanced build, I have no problem taking a shot with something like that. And Draymond Green, he tilted the hell out of me the other day. He amassed 30 fantasy points in about 2 and 2 quarters or very close to that. And even though the game's got a little out of hand, they didn't play him at all. I mean, they completely shut him down once the game got to be a 15-point game, but they played other guys. Really annoying if you want to know the truth. I guess because he didn't score a lot, whatever, but he filled the stat sheet up really well from a fantasy perspective. I guess they just preferred if he wasn't going to score, they didn't want him to
No.
score.
I don't think it has anything to do with that. I just think that they're limiting him whenever they have the excuse to. That's basically I actually think Draymond has played really well this year, like in real life basketball. Like he actually looks pretty good, and he's played a lot harder than he needs to for this team. But it does feel very strange, like speculating with him, especially with D'Angelo Russell in the lineup. Like I don't know, I just can't. I'm not quite finding myself getting there very much.
What about and the other guy I looked at a little bit with was Alec Burks. He just actually fit in my lineup pretty nicely at one point, so that's why I just kind of left him in here. But I don't know. I don't want to dismiss this game. If you want to know the truth,
No.
I think you could build some stuff out of there. I think you could put a Luka lineup together with D'Angelo Russell and make it work, or a Draymond Green and make it work, or both of them and make it work. And like we said before, if Harden gets 65. I mean, you're not dead if you don't have him. You know what I mean? So
if you're gonna get 70, you can get 70.
Yeah.
You can still win without him.
Yeah.
That's how crazy it is. You really can. Like you want that. I would take the 75, but you can still win without him. It's definitely possible.
So I do have some interest in this. I think that as part of the balance builds, you could put Russell in, and I don't know if it's a game stack for me. Maybe a lineup or two, but the Russell thing kind of intrigues me for some reason, just because of all these other kind of like mid-range guys I want to play. So maybe if I could play value guys from Houston that are kind of chalky, but then just kind of fill it in with guys like Booker, who's now going to be more popular because Rubio's out. But Booker and Russell, even a Mitchell, somebody like that. And that's the way to low own the slate a little bit, or maybe even a Randall. Guys like that. So I don't know. I think that Russell fits with a lot of those builds actually.
I just want to point out that if you're looking for a good reason to play Luka over Harden, I mean, Luka was on his way to having a game better than Harden's had all year. The last time these teams met, he had 77 fantasy points in 25 minutes. They just were up by 45 points or something. I just think Luka could absolutely smash here, and for no ownership, like why wouldn't we play this guy? Like, I don't know. I don't have Harden ranked so far ahead of him tonight. So I'm completely open to playing Luka over Harden and running it back, just like you said, with D'Angelo Russell. I don't even mind Draymond too much if I'm going to play if I'm going to do a little stack here. But I like Burks and Russell would be my preferred guys. But I do think Draymond is in play too. I like, playing two of those guys with Luka on the other side. And I think that, you could get a monster scoring performance from those guys. You could get 60 from D'Angelo tonight. You could get 85 from Luka. Like this is a spot where I think if this game stays close, you really want to target it. I think it's a really good mini game stack.
All right. So this is what I want to do on the Phoenix game. Okay. So projections updated on all sites, and no surprise to me that Okobo is popping as a really, really big value. So let's talk about this for a second. So if you get 26 minutes, 27 minutes, something like that out of Okobo, he's projected to be a very, very strong value, and it's going to be extremely popular. So it is going to be a really important decision point what you do with him if you want to know the truth, if you're going to play Harden, or even if you don't play Harden, if you play some of these mid-range guys. For me, what's annoying to me is I think now Booker is going to be just much higher owned, and I don't think Rubio out even matters that much.
I think it matters.
Maybe a little bit, but Rubio being out, whatever, it does create this Kobo thing. It makes my interest in Booker it has to be a little less because of the ownership. But maybe I'll suggest just again, if you want to do something completely wild, I guess maybe it's going to be not even that wild. Maybe it's not even that sneaky. But Tyler Johnson's 3K. Mm-hmm. And if somehow he's not owned also, maybe try him because a Kobo stinks. Okay, it's not like it's not like Kobo's going to do anything. He's just going to be on the court. So I'm not too, and I know Tyler Johnson can actually do something. You know what I mean? So I don't know how much I really need to play a Kobo if he's going to be that chalky. That's my initial take on it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where the ownership ends up and if he's in the starting lineup. That will affect me.
Right.
The interesting thing is, if it was a different matchup, I think I'd be more interested in fading him than I am now. My issue is, okay, so Trae Young is on the other side. I don't see them having Devin Booker chasing him around. They could put Bridges on him, but that feels a little strange, like just length and speed-wise. It seems like they might have a Kobo play more just for that reason, and Tyler Johnson and Javon Carter, like some combination of those guys. But I could see the minute getting split between a Kobo and Johnson for the most part. So I don't know, man. I'm not excited about it. I'm going to have to look a little further, but I do think this particular matchup, you might get a little more Kobo than you might have in another one, because I don't think you're going to get point Booker for as much as I initially thought, because of Trae Young on the other side.
Well, so the fact is that between a Kobo and Macklemore and PJ Tucker, let's just stick with those three. Okay, you have three very, I don't say solid in the wrong way, but three well-projected value guys who are all going to be really highly owned. So what that means is that Harden is going to be extremely, extremely popular.
Yep.
So I'm actually back to my original discussion in that, you could either play, I don't think you could do both. I really don't think I guess you could. Like if you played Harden with three of those chalky guys, you're going to have to really come up with something for the rest of your lineup to make that work, because you're eating so much chalk. So I think for me, you either fade Harden and play some of these chalky value guys with kind of like those middle range guys, or you could play Harden and just somehow find a way to fade those, or at least some of those other value guys, maybe some Damian Jones pivot or something like that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's my initial look slate-wide. I mean, what do you think?
It's weird because the guard spot is much more desirable. That's why Giannis could actually get more ownership than Luka.
That's interesting.
Especially the power forward spot is not quite as strong. I just think it's kind of interesting, so that's going to end up that way. Yeah, man, it's going to be an interesting slate. I think that as of right now, I'm definitely leaning on playing at least one or two Phoenix guys, one or probably two or three Houston guys, even though they're going to be chalky, and then maybe differentiating by playing a Luka combined with a D'Angelo Russell or something like that.
Is this one of those situations that if a Kobo picks up just an incredible amount of crowd think steam and they announce him starting and all that stuff, that somehow Macklemore becomes less popular? Or I mean, he's got to be less.
Yeah, but fine. Macklemore is I mean, they're both going to be owned no matter what, I think.
Right.
But yeah, it is an interesting point. Anyway, man, I think we got to get out of here, but I think we've got a pretty good rundown of this slate. I think I'm mostly, I really like that Dallas Golden State stack and pray situation. So that's probably what I'm going to end up doing.
Well, the good thing about it is you could just basically turn off the TV, the whole night, and then at like 10 o'clock you look, say, okay, do I have a chance? No, all right, not bad.
No, I'm going to take, if I'm going to play Luka, I'm going to take advantage and watch him.
Oh, that's true.
All right, man. Well, hey, good doing the show with you. For Sheets, I'm Bobby. Good luck tonight, everyone. Hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, whatever the hell you want. We are here to help you guys. So we will talk to you soon.